guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would do my all-time favorite, most used eyeshadow brushes. I get a lot of questions in the store that I work at, just what brushes do you recommend for eyeshadow? How do you get your eyeshadow to blend so seamlessly? And while I'll say it does take some level of skill and practice in order to get a nicely blended eye look, the tools definitely help. So I'm gonna walk you through my absolute favorite brushes. Most of them are affordable, if not all of them, I believe. And just tell you guys what I love about it, what it is, how I use it, and why I love it so much. So the first one here is from LA Colors. Now this is just a simple synthetic blending brush, but what I love this for, and brushes like this in general, same thing with this Real Techniques one. This is their deluxe crease brush. Now, me personally, this is far too big to use as a blending crease brush, but what I think these synthetic bristled brushes are great for in this sort of format is for blending out my primer. I personally like to apply my eyeshadow primer with a brush rather than my finger. I may dip my finger into the pot if it's a pot format and sort of dab it on, but I really prefer to blend with a brush. So these types of brushes are great for that, and I always like to have 2 or 3 of them around in my collection to do so. This one's also nice because it's a little bit dense, so it really sort of moves that primer around. The next one I have is the Morphe M321. It's sort of like a pencil brush, but it's a thicker, fluffier version of a pencil brush. And I like this for the outer corner work. I can really pack on shadow and really sort of place it exactly where I want it to be. Now, because this is synthetic hair, it really picks up the pigment and lays it down precisely where you want it. So I think something like this is good to have around, especially if you do have small eyes like myself. This is one from Wet n Wild. It's virtually the same thing, and this came in a kit, you guys, so it doesn't have a number on here, but you can see they're very, very similar. Very similar. This one's a little bit stiffer than this one, but they essentially do pretty much the same thing. So I always like having a couple of those around. This one from Morphe is part of their little kit that you can get at Ulta. It comes in the rose gold bag. I cannot remember the name of it, but I did recently just talk about it in a haul video. This is sort of the same concept, you guys, as the last couple that I mentioned, just something with this shape. Now, what makes this one different is this is a natural bristled brush. So this really sort of helps diffuse. So I might go in with something like this, a synthetic version, and pack on the shadow and use something like this in natural bristle to really diffuse it out. So something like that is great to have around. These brushes from Wet n Wild, I think I have 3 of them. Yes, I have 3 of them in 2 different sizes. All right, so these flat shader brushes, pardon me, you guys, if some of these are dirty. Honestly, I use these brushes. Like, these are working tools. So I did do my shadow this morning, and so they have been used. But these synthetic flat shader brushes from Wet n Wild are my all-time favorite brushes ever to pack on glitter shades. These pick up the product so nicely, and because they're curved, it really helps when trying to do any kind of cut crease work, any kind of lid work in general. You can get very precise with these. They're very soft, but when you spray your brush or spray these brushes and go in with a glitter or a shimmer shadow, you'll see what I'm talking about. They just work brilliantly, and they're 99 cents. So you can go and get 4, 5, 6 of these, and honestly, just have backups for days. They're just incredible. I love them. All right, so next up I have the Sigma E25 blending brush. This is a beautiful brush. I see what the hype is. It really is amazing. This is Morphe's version of this brush here, and as you can see, the Morphe brushes tend to really fluff out. They do not maintain that shape. That's what I've noticed. So I can get a little bit more precise work with this Sigma one here. I just find that the quality of Sigma brushes is better than Morphe, but they are pricier than Morphe brushes too. So I would love to have a couple of these as backups, but for now I only have one. And I do use it a lot. What I love about this brush is you can really get into that crease and sort of, you know, pack on the shadow, but you can turn it sideways like so and really blend it out. So it's really great. This one here from Morphe, when you first get it, it's very much just like this guy, but as you wash them, they totally tend to fluff out. And so what I basically use this one now for is basically diffusing shadow. It's great for diffusing and softening your eyeshadow looks. I have a few pencil brushes. Now I find pencil brushes to be an essential. These are such multi-purpose brushes. You can use them to do your lower lash line, you can use them to pack on in the outer V, or you can use them to really create intricate crease work, detailed crease work. So for me, I love my pencil brushes. Now both of these came from Sonia Kashuk. I think she makes some of the best pencil brushes that I personally have come across. This one came in a kit, so this is no longer available. Another favorite from that kit is the fluffy blending brush. She just makes beautiful brushes in general, you guys. They are absolutely incredible. So if you are looking for some good eyeshadow brushes, I would say check out her line. You can often get them in kits as well, and usually after the season. So she'll come out with like a spring kit. When summer hits and she's coming out with her newest kit, they usually go on clearance, and I find that's the best time to pick them up. But what I love about a pencil brush is just that they're multi-purpose brushes, but I just have to have these around. They just do anything and everything that you could possibly need when it comes to really being precise. So this one is great, and then this one is also from her line as well. Next up, I have a couple crease brushes that if you have a CVS near you, you'll be able to pick these up there. It's the only place I've ever seen them, and this is just the MUA crease brush number 315. What I love about this is it's just a teeny tiny, very fluffy and soft sort of crease brush. And when you have small eyes, something like this can tend to be overwhelming. It's just a little too big. It's a blending brush and it's great for diffusing shadow, but when you really want that precise, detailed crease work, this is where it's at. So this is about $8, I believe, and I now have 3 of them because sometimes they'll go buy one, get one free, or buy one, get one half off. So I really became attached to this brush. I think it's a great option. If you have a CVS near you, I would say check it out, especially if you're in the market for a teeny little detail brush for the crease. And then if you have an Ulta near you, they are now carrying this brush at Ulta, and it is the Morphe M507. I recently just talked about this in a haul as well, but this is just my favorite little detailed brush. It's super tapered. It comes to a super pointy little tip, so you can literally just tap the shadow and place it exactly where you want, but it's also fluffy enough to really blend things out. So this, I would love to have 2 or 3 more of these as backups because I think these are absolutely incredible. Next up, I have the Sigma E40. Now this to me is a little too large for crease work. It's just too big for my eyes personally, but what I love this for is setting down the first shadow that I go in with. Typically, it's a flesh tone shadow, and I like to just quickly distribute that throughout my eyes just to make sure that my primer is set in place and everything blends out seamlessly on top. So I do think a Sigma E40 is nice to have around, but I do not think it's an essential brush. They do tend to get softer and fluffier as you wash them, which I do appreciate because in the beginning this was very stiff and almost a little difficult to work with, but I feel like the more you use them, the better they get. Next up, I have another Wet n Wild brush. This was also part of the kit that was around for the holidays, but they do offer this kit online now. And this is very similar to the Sigma E25. You can see the shape is very similar, and I love this brush. I use this more than my Sigma brush because I feel like I need to treasure this one a little more because I can only get it online. It's a little bit spendy, so same thing with my MAC 217. I rarely use my MAC 217 because it's just like a special brush, but I don't have any issue using this one because it's a pretty affordable brush, and it is so soft, you guys. These Wet n Wild brushes, the quality is impeccable. They're so soft, and it really does blend shadow beautifully. So I really love this brush, and I use it just about every day, right along with this one from Wet n Wild, which you can find at the drugstore, just like these ones here, the little flat shader brushes. This is their crease brush, and this, I have 5 of these now. I have 5 of these brushes because it's just my favorite brush when I am going in with my first shade, my transition shade. This is my favorite brush for that. It's just the right size. It's not too overwhelming for my eye. The bristles are so soft, and this just really not only packs on shadow, but blends it out beautifully. So I would say check these out. They are definitely worth the 99 cents. This brush here is a BH Cosmetics brush. It's the number 141. I love this for going in with my Brulee eyeshadow. This is the first step I take when setting my eyeshadow primer, is I go in with this brush here with my Brulee eyeshadow from Wet n Wild. I'll tap this in the shadow, and then I tap it onto my lid, and then I will just in windshield wiper sort of blend it out. It just does a great job at really packing on that first shade and setting down that primer so that everything blends out beautifully on top. And then after that, I will usually go in with the Sigma E40 and do essentially the same thing. I'm really weird about setting my primer down. I'm very particular because I just think if you set your primer down really well, it really does make blending shadow from that point on so much easier. So these are my brushes for that. This is the Morphe M421. This is a great brush if you are looking to do a cut crease, because this really does have that very precise dome shape, especially if you have small eyes. It's very similar to these ones from Wet n Wild. The Wet n Wild one's a little bit wider, and this one's a little longer and more sort of rounded, but they're essentially the same thing. And I think they essentially do the same thing. So this is a nice brush. I do keep it in my everyday kit because, you know, when these are all dirty, I usually will gravitate towards that one. The Morphe M505, this is just a great, super tapered, chunky blending brush. It's better than the M330 in my opinion. This is just better quality, and this does a great job at really softening looks, and you can, because it does come to such a point, you can really sort of get it where you want it in terms of the shadow. So I do really enjoy this brush as well. I have a couple brushes from Real Techniques I want to talk about. And the first one is this guy here. I believe this is actually supposed to be for concealer, but I like this for the same thing. When I want to do a cut crease, I like this brush because it comes to a super duper sharp point. It's very precise, and I can really get that concealer exactly where I want it with this. The next one is the base shadow brush. This often comes in a kit, and I like this because it does come to a nice tapered point there, and very similar to something like this. You know, you can put it exactly where you want to, but it's also fluffy enough to sort of blend it out. So I do really enjoy this brush. It's very, very soft. They wash and hold up really well as well. And then these two here are also from Real Techniques, and these I love in my lower lash line. These are exactly what I use to do smudging in my lower lash line. So it's the smudge brush, and then this is the accent brush. So it's basically a tinier version of this one. see if I can hold them up next to each other so you can see what they look like in comparison. So you can just see that the bottom one is a little smaller, a little more precise. This is also really nice for brow bone highlight and inner corner highlight as well. So I always have these in my container because they are wonderful. And then the last one I want to mention is from Eco Tools, and this is the eye lip brush, but I never use it for that. This is my all-time favorite brush for the inner corner and the brow bone. There's just something about it. It's super precise, but yet it's nice and fluffy, you guys. It's just, to me, this is too fluffy for a lip brush, but it's perfect for that precise, detailed application of a brow bone and inner corner highlight, and it's just so soft. It's not scratchy or irritating at all, and because it has that little bit of fluff to it, it really does sort of blend that brow bone highlight so that it's not too stark, you know what I mean? So this came in a kit. I don't know if you can get it on its own, but of all the brushes I got out of the kit, this one is my favorite. So that's it, you guys. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions on any of these brushes, just ask. I'd be more than happy to answer to the best of my ability. They all vary in price, but they're all relatively affordable, with the Sigma brushes being the most expensive, and then I would say Sonia Kashuk being the next most expensive, and then Morphe Real Techniques, those are pretty much all in the same price range. So if you guys have, like I said, any questions, just let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so I can see you here next time. And that's all for today. Have a wonderful one, you guys. Bye.